There's a few things that I think are like human universal struggles, and one is the feeling of rejection, the fear of not belonging, the fear of like not being enough. I think that's something that everyone is born with, and there's very few, I feel like, instances that are repeatable things that help you go through that skill. And I think that this is one of them, is getting a lot of no's, getting a lot of rejection. Every single time you get a little bit better at getting through that, and I do think that builds up a kind of an arsenal to help someone get through one of like the biggest struggles that you have as a person. So that's something I tell myself all the time, is like, wow, this is a bummer. It's not going to hurt as much next time because I'm getting better at this.
You're listening to Creatives Prevail, unraveling the stories of creative professionals.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Creatives Prevail, where creators, artists, and industry professionals share the stories, challenges, and decisions behind building their careers. I'm your host, Mike Zimmerlich, and my next guest is Zoe Wrenn, musician and founder of the music tech company Tamber. In this interview, we discuss how she taught herself to code through YouTube, as well as balancing her music career while building her company. Zoe also shares how she handled 98 rejections before successfully raising funding, as well as her perspective on the ethics of using technology such as AI music. Let's get into it. Hey Zoe, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really do appreciate it. I'm really excited to talk to you because we'll get into what you're doing right now, which is truly incredible. But your background also is really fascinating because you blended your passions with music and technology into something that is truly unique. So I want to start off with asking you the question about technology itself and what I know this is a very big question, but what does technology mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a big question, but I think, technology in general is always meant to me kind of a way to express yourself in you basically whatever you can dream up, you can create. I feel like it's very similar to music, where you have an idea and then you could be able to execute it and be able to kind of like give birth to this thing that is uh something that's an extension of you. I mean, I think technology is here to elevate the human experience, and anything that does that and makes it feel a little bit more magical, I think that's truly good technology.
I completely agree with you. I feel very strongly that technology at the end of the day is a tool, and it really is up to us humans to determine how we're going to utilize those tools.
Hmm.
So for better, for worse, but like ultimately, like you mentioned, is that it enables technology enables creativity.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was listening to a podcast a while ago, and they were talking about the history of Leonardo da Vinci. We're gonna go way back. Leonardo da Vinci, and he became well known. In fact, he was an apprentice at the time, and he found this new technique on painting to make the paintings look more realistic. And he got so good at it that his master quit painting because he's like, I can't do what this kid is doing. Like, I just can't do
Right.
this. And that's how like Leonardo da Vinci, and for so many other reasons, I mean, you know him for so many other things, but he was just inherently curious about science and technology, and he incorporated that into art. So that's always been the case. There's always been some sort of connection between technology and art.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think uh, the way that people can utilize technology right now is very similar to a paintbrush. I like that analogy because I do think it's kind of a new way to create. If you handed 10 artists the same palette of paint but different tools, what they're going to create is vastly different. And I think that's kind of what's really special right now, is the ability to create things at a faster speed, but with new tools that will always kind of look different.
And you're classically trained, right? You're a classically trained musician.
I am a classically trained musician. Yeah, I was a jazz guitarist for a very long time, and then I was a classical compositionist for a while too.
That's amazing. So, wow. So jazz guitarist, that's interesting, a mix. Cause usually like, I mean, that obviously does exist, but that's usually an interesting blend of the two.
Yeah, I mean, I was a jazz vocalist, and that kind of was my main thing, and I think the passion from there just kind of spilled over a little bit. I was playing a lot of like rock guitar, and then the jazz passion just kind of takes over. It's pretty all encompassing when you're in it.
Was that why you went to NYU, was to study music?
Yeah, I went to the Clive Davis Institute there, which is in Tisch. It's basically their commercial music program. I only went for a year because then shortly after that I got offered a tour, and I was like, well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But it was a great year.
So after a year, you got invited on on a tour?
Yeah, I toured for a couple years with a few of my friends. The first tour I did was with an artist named Nash, who he had a big song called "I Hate You, Love You" back in, I guess it was like 2014, 2016. And so we toured with that. I co-wrote some songs on his album, and it was, yeah, it was a really amazing experience.
It's incredible. So you were going on tour and doing all these amazing things. Did you feel that that was going to be your career as a musician?
Yeah, I think then for sure. I think people's purpose changes as they change, but at that point in time, I was like, "Oh, this is what I want to do." And I still love it. Don't get me wrong. I think I've found a passion that's better suited for what I like to do currently. But for a while, I was like, "Oh, this is it."
I'm curious because at some point in time you got into coding.
Hmm.
And so why, like, which is like very different than making music. And
Yeah.
so why decide that you to get into coding?
Yeah, I mean, I started kind of coding when I was about like 13 or 14. It was just something that seemed hard, and I think I've got like a passion I still do from things that seem very, very difficult. I like to approach things that I have no further experience or but past experience in and see if I can do it. Like I've been really into blacksmithing lately because that's like another thing that I feel like, like nothing in my life could prepare me
Wow.
for that.
That's
Yeah.
also like you like going to the edges of things, don't you? Like
Yeah.
blacksmithing seems like the complete opposite of everything else.
It's interesting. I think, like, things that are on these kind of outskirts are actually way more related. And I'm not a particularly like religious person, but I know my dad always said that like music feels like the closest you get to God. And I feel like when I was creating things when I was 14 or so, and I had a dream, and then I was able back then augmented reality was a big thing. I had like a dream of something, I was able to create it and then watch it appear in real time. I was like, it was a semi-religious experience, which is similar how I felt when I was creating music. So I do actually feel like they had much more of a crossover.
That's incredible. So you got into coding and you self-taught yourself as
Hmm.
well.
Yeah. Yeah, YouTube. I mainly kind of taught myself on YouTube. YouTube is the people's college, in my opinion. But that was a big thing. And then also there was a guy who was making a lot of tutorials on YouTube at the time that I just sent a blind DM to when I was like 16, who ended up becoming a good friend of mine and teaching me a lot of the AR things that I know now.
It's really, really cool. And yeah, I wanted to make a mention about the fact that you got into AR as well. So you self-taught yourself on YouTube and
Mhm.
started learning augmented reality for, I noticed that you got into freelancing at this point. So was this a way that you just decided that, hey, this is something that I really enjoy doing, it's something that's challenging for me, and I want to now, make some money from it?
It was more like I tried it and was able to do it, and then the ideas just started flowing out, being like, "Okay, I wanna have this integrated into my music." So at the time, I was creating, like, an AR video game. I had all of these different characters. I was into VR at the point, so I had some, like, VR videos you could get into, and this was back in the day of, like, the wired HTC Vive. So this was, like, a while ago, but I built a couple computers to handle it too, so it just kind of spiraled into this thing of being like, "How creative can I be, and where can I expand this into?" And then I think from there, if you're a creative person and you're looking at like a technological process in a creative way, it's a very unique way of looking at it. So I just happened to meet people that wanted to hire me to do these kind of freelance things, which I just really enjoyed. I thought it was there. Pretty much every single one was a challenge, which I felt was really appealing.
During I do want to mention this too, is that during this time you were also releasing music as an artist, if I
Yeah.
understand correctly,
Mhm.
right? Like during this time.
Yeah, definitely. I was on tour a majority of the time as well. Yeah.
And I like that fact because this is something that I talk to artists all the time about, is having that second skill, right? And it's something
Mhm.
that is amongst, a lot of conversations, especially if you're doing something creative, to also have some sort of second skill that you can utilize. And
Yeah.
especially if it's something that you can do remotely. So for example, you're on tour, as long as you have, Wi-Fi access, you can, bring out your laptop and get work done while you're on the road, right? And that's a hard skill set to have, that you can not only earn income from, but also be able to do your creative works as well, such as going on tour.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's also it's an interesting thing. I think sometimes when you're on tour too, like certain moments can feel repetitive at times. And so I think like when I was suddenly sitting down and having to code these things after shows or whatnot, I think it would break me out of my thought process and actually help me have better performances the next day, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think they really leaned into each other. I enjoyed both of them a lot.
Wow, that's truly amazing. And yeah, it's interesting because I do want to mention real quick about the freelancing aspect of it too. So because again, it sounds like it kind of hits both the different parts of your brains and so forth. Do you find that was ever like challenging to do the outreach work that was involved in both of those? Because
Oh
you're
yeah.
obviously having to do pitching for yourself for getting freelance work, but at the same token, you're also setting up tours and, pitching to venues and, thinking about release strategies and all these things essentially all at the same time.
Yeah, the music thing I feel like came a little easier just because I don't know, maybe I had more of a passion for it and I was doing it more often. The getting freelance coding gigs was pretty crazy. I will say back then, and I think it's improved a little bit now, but back then I would have to send like code samples in, but I would often do it under a different name. So I would use I was Evan back then because that can be a female or a male's name. Because I did find that being a thing pretty consistently. Is I had red hair back then, and that was a thing. Also, can you hear my dog? I'm so sorry. She's like yelling.
Okay, no, we love pets on this podcast, so we're
Okay,
good.
cool, cool. Hopefully she's fine. But I mean that was something that I faced that I wasn't expecting right away for sure.
Wow, that's incredible. So you're on the road, you're touring, you are, you're releasing music as an artist, you're doing freelance work, doing all kinds of different coding and augmented reality projects and so forth. Which sounds amazing. And then you decide to start your own company. So,
Yeah.
which is now called Tamber. So,
Mhm.
why did you start because it sounds like you got a lot of things going on for yourself at the moment. Why decide to start a company?
Yeah, I mean, it really I didn't mean to. I like to say a lot. But I was a touring musician for a while, and I was also a freelance engineer. And there was a period of time I was working for a company called Artisan Vehicles, doing basically like underground mining simulations at the same time where I was touring. And then COVID happened, and pretty much all of that stopped. And so I was at home all the time with this beast of a computer I built, not being able to do kind of anything freelance. And so I decided like, okay, I'm going to build this tool that I've always wanted, which was to help me kind of speed up that creative process. I was not really necessarily a producer. I was Pro Tools certified, but not really anything else. And I wanted something to help coach me and be able to just like make better music faster. And not that I thought I wasn't making good music, but yeah, I wanted this thing that didn't exist. And so I just built it. And the first song that I wrote with it, kind of as like a sparring partner, was the song Hailey that went super, super viral and, got like 30 million streams and 350 million impressions. And I gained like 1.5 million followers from it, which was crazy. But then the biggest thing is I started getting connected to all these other musicians to the point that we're similarly kind of having viral music. During COVID, it was really special. We were kind of like all in a group chat. It was really cool. And I just started noticing and talking to people and finding, people are sharing the same pain points. And then I was just asking my friends like, oh, what do you want? And then I would just sit down and build it. And to be totally honest, I feel like I blinked and then like suddenly it was a company. It was just so not something that I ever anticipated. And when I closed my first round of funding, it was just me. I was a team of one. So it became like, oh, this is a very much a real thing. And then also too, I started seeing what was popping up in the space and was pretty disgusted by it. And then I think I really took up the sword and was like, there must be something more positive in this space. And that's really been a driving force behind it too.
Okay, so you left some things out there because you went from, hey, I accidentally found this idea that resonated with other musicians that are going viral right now to develop something, to raising funding,
Mhm.
which that's a big jump because
Yeah,
you didn't come from a VC background or
yeah.
had any kind of tech development prior to that or anything along those lines. And I mean, I know may not be able to get into the specifics of all this, but that is that's huge, especially
Yeah.
these days where where funding it can be very challenging to acquire these days. So can you talk a little bit about how you were able to accomplish that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're a touring musician and you have toured, like my first tour was in a windowless van, white van with like 6 guys. I think like if you're able to do that, I actually think the artist mentality mindset is very well suited for the founder path. You've done this a lot, you're hungry, you're not afraid to like sleep on the floor of a Motel 6 and get up and be like, I'm gonna do the thing. And one of my favorite quotes is you know, water doesn't cut through rock because of the force of the stream, but because it's persistence. And I do really think like that's been a pretty consistent thing is getting up and just being like taking a million no's and saying like, no, I'm going to do this thing. And so I think I had 98 no's before we like finally closed the round and met a lead. And I will say the lead of my first round, this guy named Kevin Novak, who's just an actual genius, was one of the first people at Uber. And I think he really shared this mindset when he met me. I went to a pitch competition and won, and won like 10 grand from it. And then afterwards he came up to me and was like, hey, I saw the way that the crowd was responding to you in this product. Do you want to come downstairs? It was at this whiskey distillery. He's like, do you want to come downstairs with the whole fund and we can just like get to know each other, like maybe there's something here. And I got to know the whole fund, and they shared this kind of old school tech mindset of this is a unique person with a really interesting idea, and they might just be the person to do it. And that was a really, for his belief in me, was really, really impactful because, I didn't go to Stanford. I'd never ran a company before, but he looked at me and was like, I think this girl can actually do it because the problem she's solving is one that she solved for herself. So that was pretty cool.
Incredible. That's truly amazing, and it just goes to show about yourself, and that, like you said, that persistence and resilience along the way, right? That you kind of built being a touring musician. I
Yeah.
agree with you. I feel like there's a lot of similarities between that and being a founder of a company. Because same
Hmm.
thing is, you're going to go through a lot of things. You're going to go through, it's a roller coaster of a ride, right? Like a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and it can be everything from sleeping in a comfortable hotel room to sleeping in the on the floor, the dirty floor, just whatever it's going to take to get by.
Yeah, you have to it's a mindset where you want something, it almost like so bad it almost teeters on desperation, but it's just fueled by this hunger, and I think a lot of musicians have that too. And yeah, I felt it was a very natural progression. A lot of my friends, when I started meeting founders, were being like, "Aren't you scared and stressed all the time?" And I'm like, "Nah, I've toured for 3 years. I've been ready for this moment." So
So let's talk about Tamber. So what is Tamber?
I like to say Tamber is like the Adobe Creative Suite for music creation tools. So it's a big suite of tools. There's about 6 of them that are out currently. They stem from our tool Tambi, which is basically like similar to Clippy that works within your sessions. You don't need to download a new DAW. You can have whatever DAW you want, but you can talk to her and ask things like, help me, something as simple as start recording or create a new track, to scan all of my plugins and help me find a synth that feels blue or tastes like chocolate. We've got a gestural instrument where you can put your hand in and then just be able to play music without touching anything through the camera. It's really cool. We've got another tool called Librarian that can basically scan your entire computer and show you every audio sample you've ever downloaded. And then we're able to then put on these synesthetic descriptors. So all of our models are trained in-house. We don't train on any third-party audio whatsoever, but we work with a lot of artists that have synesthesia. So it understands not only what a note sounds like, but what it tastes like, what color it is. So you're able to talk to things in a much more like interesting, complex, natural language. And then we also hired a whole bunch of musicians all over the world to create a really vast internal sample library based on ambient recordings from all over the world. So from anywhere from like Bamako, Mali to Hong Kong to New York. And then our team of in-house producers flips them into usable samples. So there's a couple other things, but it's pretty big. I will say we don't do any synthetic audio at all. So no typing in a prompt and getting something out. The whole point is really for it to be able to help augment your workflow. We're very anti-generative audio, and we're also carbon neutral as of last week. So that's kind of the big
Congratulations
thing.
on that.
Thank
That's also
you.
very big. That's
Yeah.
incredible. Also, you used the analogy of Clippy. I'm like, I don't know if that's the right good analogy to have.
Yeah. Well, I feel like some people, if people don't know Clippy, you should Google Clippy. It's a fun rabbit hole to go down.
It is a very fun rabbit hole to go down. Oh man. So that's truly incredible. Like I was also seeing a lot of videos online as far as how it actually works, and how you are now engaging with music in a very different way, especially with AR. I love the gesture aspect of it, which was truly magical to see how it was all working together and so forth. And even Tambi specifically, which I love, like it's again your fun little assistant. I even love how when you are asking it to do things for you, even the animations, like I love how much thought process was put behind this, because like it has these fun little animations of it, almost like it's being alive, and it's like really like almost like you're literally like your fun little assistant that's helping you out do things. And that's something that I always really appreciated, was the amount of detail that was put into this.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. We really have spent, I mean, it's been years and very much like a lot of passion to create something that I think is important in the space right now. So I appreciate that.
So, also, I do want to make a quick shout out because of your accomplishments. Is that last year you were also on Forbes 30 under 30, which is also a very, very big deal. So I want to
Thank you.
do a quick mention of that too. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, that was crazy. You don't know that you're on that until the day of, and I found out like 4 a.m. just
Really.
refreshing the page. Yeah, it was crazy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
So I do want to also, one other thing I do want to mention too is, because I've seen this in the videos, things like that too. You are a user like of what you created, and I think that's
Oh
also
yeah.
very important too, because that's not always the case that a company founder is able to do that, where they're building a tool that is meant for them. Is sometimes it's meant for others,
Yeah.
but that's something to be mentioned, is the fact that you are a user of your own platform.
Yeah, I stand very firmly on the fact that if a founder is not, if you're not solving a problem that is actually your problem, you're going to face a lot of issues. And that's also why not a lot of the things in this particular space are very exciting to me right now, because you can tell that sometimes the people that are creating it, the solutions that they're coming up with are just not really relevant. It's kind of like, oh, I'm having a hard time producing. And they're like, what if music was Figma? What if we produced all music for you? It's just kind of a thing where you can tell that they haven't faced those problems themselves. So yeah, I wanted to make sure that whatever we're creating is something that I can use in my music creation process.
I also appreciate the fact that how much you went into making sure that the music that you're using is from in-house samples, that you
Yeah.
hired musicians to get in real life to build out that library and so forth. It's not, as you mentioned, it's not synthetic. It's actually utilizing real world sounds to create new music from that. I also really appreciate that too.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a really incredible thing too to see, because we have videos that come along with all of these samples. They take handheld recorders and then take videos. A lot of the people that we've hired are both filmmakers and musicians, so it's really cool every time that we get samples in before we mix them. I have the whole team go to the TV in the main room. I'm like, let's watch all of these videos, and it's crazy to see the stuff you get from like Shanghai and from Johannesburg and from Tokyo. It's just these places that I've seen, but not from the perspective of someone who actually lives there. We had a guy named Ahmed who filmed a whole bunch of stuff in Cairo, and the stuff he was been able to get, sounds and video wise, just as someone who is a native Arabic speaker who lives in Egypt, who's from Egypt, is just truly so extraordinary. It's been it's one of my favorite parts, is being able to like see and hear these things.
Absolutely, and also you're able to engage with musicians all over the world too, and
Yeah.
you're helping them out, by hiring them to capture these sounds for you.
100%. We make sure when we first contact someone that we're like paying them their daily rate. And then it's been really cool. We've had a lot of people come back saying, I actually had a lot of fun doing this. Not only going out and like discovering things, but rediscovering the cities that they live in. And pretty much everyone has been like, hey, if you need any more cities, like let us know. So we basically have a huge network of what I like to call our archivists, which has been, yeah, it's really been cool to build.
So I do want to mention about the other side. You mentioned about the fact of you touched upon about generative AI, which of course is still quite a hot button issue, but an
Yeah.
issue right now with musicians. And so, what do you say to people that are that think that Tamber or even Tambi is, oh, this is just AI slop, or just generative AI just taking over jobs, or taking over producers' jobs and so forth.
Yeah.
What would you say to people that are thinking in that particular way?
For people that are saying that about generative AI, I fully agree with them. And I share the exact same sentiments. I think the term AI has become synonymous with what a lot of the big players are doing in the space. It's kind of the loudest, most horrifying voices are the ones that are going to be taken first. And I do actually think that's probably correct. I think the anger is, I don't want anyone to not be angry about this because they should. It just should be placed towards the people that are actually doing a lot of the evil, bad things. For Tambi, I understand the knee-jerk reaction when people are seeing machine learning or listening being used, but I would, it kind of reminds me of really intense like politics as well, where it's like if you're going to have an opinion on a issue, you should know all sides of it and recognize like what you're actually fighting for. Because Tambi is not generative AI. We don't do any generative AI like at all whatsoever. Our carbon footprint for the last year and a half is the equivalent of creating one steak dinner. I'm sitting next to the computer that I hand built to train these models in house specifically with the intention of being able to track our energy and water usage. So, I also don't think it's that hard. If the big players wanted to do it, they just don't want to do it. What I would say though is take that anger, which is amazing, and you should have that, and point it at the people that are actually like poisoning the world, because they are there and they're a lot more powerful than me and my team. When Tamber came out and Billboard did our coverage, our release, which was awesome, we got a lot of comments from people that didn't read beyond the title. And I ended up actually messaging pretty much all of them and then putting my personal email on my story. And I was like, hey, if you want to talk about this, you can book time with me and I will walk you through everything and I will show you all of our energy and carbon outputs for the last year. Some of the people then were like, oh, wow, now we're cool because I was able to explain it to them. But yeah.
I also want to mention the fact that you built your own rig.
Yes. He's sitting over there.
That is super cool.
He's underneath. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Wow. So you actually built it too. That, like, I have to say, like, is there anything that you don't do at this point in time? Because this is truly amazing.
Tech is my specialty. So I mean, I built a lot of computers for AR and gaming back in the day. So this was my first like machine learning computer, but this is the same stuff.
I partially miss those days. When I was a teenager, I would build my own PCs from scratch and put things together, and that was so much fun. And seeing why things broke, and and then just try like just hope that the OS is going to install correctly and there's not going to be any issues and all those things. That definitely brings me back. So those are so much fun, right? And there's something to be said too about the tactile aspect of that too, of just building something, right? And but I think that's true across the board. I think for anything, whether it's building something physical, building something that is digital, making doing something creative like music and so forth. It's just I feel to me the passion comes from the trial and error of it all, right? Mm-hmm. It's the process. It's learning and making tons of mistakes along the way, but have the core of it being the intent, right? Yeah. And I can see that out of you is like the core has always been for you is making something that was ethical as well as valuable to other people, and to do something that you just love to do. And I can tell like through everything that you did that you've done is just something that you've always been interested and passionate about.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, I mean it's I like to say this is kind of like my life's purpose at this point, especially after seeing like what's happening in the world in the space right now and seeing the fear that people are feeling. I mean, I said at the very beginning, but like tech should elevate the human experience and feel like magic. And it's so disappointing to see, we're kind of living in this like technological oligarchy right now. Like it's so disappointing to see the big players say they own the monopoly, and because they do, they don't have to keep innovating. And that's a scary place to be in for sure.
But I mean, we've also seen that too, right? Is that for a while there, the current big players weren't the current big players even 5-6 years ago. They were the innovators, right? Yeah. So that's the thing to always think about too. Is that it just takes somebody to take a chance to take on a challenge, and if you're doing it better, faster, in a completely different, unique way, you can take down, not take down, but you can make a difference. I'll put it that way. Not take down, but make a difference.
I'll put it that way. You can take them down. Yeah, I'll put it that
Okay.
way. Yeah, that's I think you
Yeah,
can.
I'm gonna be, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like, it's just that you can certainly make your mark if you're
Mhm.
doing those things. And that's, especially when it was coming to AI technology right now, that's like perfect proof of that. Is that
Yeah.
not, if you are not, if you're not adapting or innovating, eventually at some point you could be left behind. And you can do that in a very, in a way that is moral, that's ethical, that is, I want to, like, even outside of morals and ethics for a second here, outside of that is just, again, going down to purpose and intent, right?
Mhm.
You purposely made sure that what you were creating was going to leave, at this point in time, no carbon footprint at all. You took it upon yourself to do that. You took upon yourself to get real world samples to be able to, and that's what you're being utilized. It's not using anything else outside of that. It's just using that. The fact that you mentioned about scanning your own computer and then taking your samples from there that you already have, right? All those different types of things I can tell you put a lot of thought into those things to make something that was useful. And
Thank
I
you.
think that's the most important thing, is really coming down to what can I create that is going to be something that I'm proud of, that I'm passionate about, that really make a difference for other people's lives.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I mean, that's really what this entire team is trying to do. So I appreciate you seeing that. Yeah.
So we can start wrapping things up here. So I do have a couple of fun questions for you. So first question I have for you is, what was the very first concert that you ever went to?
Cher. My father was her musical director growing
Wow.
up, so I think I must have been like
Really?
a month old. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great one. Wow,
Mhm.
Cher. That's a good one. Do you have a go-to artist that you're listening to right now?
Go-to artist that I'm listening to right now. Let's see. There's an artist out of Egypt named Halem Taj El Ser. I really like his music right now. I think his stuff is really cool. It's like Sudanese Arabic. And there's one of my favorite artists is Keaton Henson. I've been listening to a lot of his stuff lately. Uh, that's pretty much that. I've been playing a playlist of like 60s, 70s Iranian funk music, and that's been very cool too.
That's awesome. All right, last question for you. If you were only able to give one piece of advice, what would that one piece of advice be?
That's a good question. Uh, I mean, I think it's just like you just have to keep going. You can't give up. Like, I think that's a big one too. Being a blue-haired female in music tech is just any tech is a lot. And I took a lot of no's, and I think rejection therapy ended up being like one of the best things that's ever happened to me. But um, just when things are getting tough, it normally means that you're getting close to something really special and important, and a lot of people give up at that period of time. So going through difficult things can be very much of a blessing, um, if you just continue persevering. I think it's a pretty repetitive piece of advice. I feel like everyone says that, but it's very, very true. And just not to get disheartened if you find people that don't understand you, and like screw them. Like, who cares? You're gonna find people who do. So. Hmm.
Really appreciate you saying that, because you know I appreciate the fact of how much, of talking about your accomplishments, but also the no's, the rejections that you got along the way.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard thing to do. I'm naturally an introvert, so it took a long time to develop a tough skin of getting no's all the time. But even then, like, even to this day, sometimes it's just maybe that no that you're really hoping was going to be yes. It just puts you in such a bad mood, and you have to just learn on how to cope with that and how to do that. And what my business coach actually told me, this is this concept of closing the loop. And
Mm.
meaning that, okay, whether it's a yes, I mean, obviously you want to find the yeses, but to me, I find the accomplishment in just getting the no's as well. It's like,
Yeah.
cool, all right, no, at least I got an answer. They're not interested. They don't want to be a part of this. Whatever the case is, great, awesome. I can now move on to something else. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to, like, train my mind that, okay, because for me it drives me crazy when I have no answer. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, do they like do they see the value in this? Are they just busy? Do they just were they offended like on an email that I sent to them? I mean, I have no idea, right? But
Yeah.
so at least getting some sort of response, right? But at least if I get even a no, it's like, all right, cool, I don't have to worry about this anymore. It's done, it's over with. They said no. Oh, cool. I'll just move on to the next thing. But at least I got the answer. So I liked that. In fact, I have that on my whiteboard. Is just literally about is just literally closing the loop. So just
Yeah.
closing them out, whether it's a yes or no. Just close it out. Don't be feel accomplished that you got a response, and then just move on to the next thing.
100%. I think too, there's a few things that I think are like human universal struggles, and one is the feeling of rejection, the fear of not belonging, the fear of like not being enough. I think that's something that everyone is born with, and there's very few, I feel like, instances that are repeatable things that help you go through that skill. And I think that this is one of them, is getting a lot of no's, getting a lot of rejection. Every single time you get a little bit better at getting through that, and I do think that builds up a kind of an arsenal to help someone get through one of like the biggest struggles that you have as a person. So that's something I tell myself all the time, is like, wow, this is a bummer. It's not going to hurt as much next time because I'm getting better at this. And I think that's a, you know, I think the brain atrophies when you stop learning. And so I think this is a way to keep learning of how to go through things just as like a human.
I appreciate that too, because like that's the other thing, is that it sounds like that you are just an inherently curious person. So
Yeah.
you were constantly learning new things and so forth. And I find like I try to do that myself too. And sometimes I feel that I'm just so like laser focused and trying to just get things done for the day that I have to sometimes remind myself that it's okay to also allow myself to be curious and allow to myself to to try out different things, even if it's something completely different from what I'm currently doing now.
100%. And what a blessing it is that you get to do that at all. I feel like that's a really cool and
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. It's it's interesting because especially doing this podcast, for example, right? It just gives me a lot of a lot of joy, but it also gives me the opportunity to learn from so many people, and every single person I've talked to. I mean, I've at this point done well over 250 interviews, and everyone has every single person I talk to has similar struggles, challenges, insecurities, and fears, and and all these different things, and but it's interesting because every single person has a different way of overcoming them. And I think that's the thing, is
Yeah.
like just finding your own way of overcoming those things, and just kind of going full circle is that I can tell, like, always always have that you've it sounds like you always had that positive attitude of, I'm going to go through this, whatever it takes. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to accomplish, and I'm going to always want to be curious and to learn and to try different things out and create something that I really do believe in.
Yeah. I don't always have the positive attitude, but but I think it's a very natural thing to try to put meaning to struggle and suffering. So I think it's like having that give reason. But I'm trying to get better at it. That's one of my skills too. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, Zoe, thank you so much again. This was so much fun, and really appreciate it so
Having me.
much. And we'll make sure that we have all your links and everything like that in the show notes. So please, if you are musician, producer, anybody who or just want to get into music, definitely check out Tamber. It looks so truly incredible, and I'm very excited to what is ahead for you, Zoe. Seriously, like, you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This has been great.